Yeah, Gladys Berejiklian proposing this change, or announcing this proposed change to freeze all public service wages for the state's 320,000 public servants, rather than give them the usual 2.5% wage rise. Hard to argue with a lot of it, but controversial that she would not exempt police and nurses who are doing their most dangerous work ever at the moment. And there was a heated cabinet battle yesterday on this, where comparisons were made to Mike Baird's controversial ban of the greyhound industry, which he was forced to later overturn in New South Wales. Berejiklian and her Treasurer Dominic Perrottet are staring down the barrel of a $10 billion deficit after forecasting a $1 billion surplus. Stamp duty has gone off a cliff, and they have had to spend on bushfires and COVID. But many in Cabinet, with speakers including Health Minister Brad Hazzard and Planning Minister Rob Stokes, could not understand why police, nurses and teachers could not be exempted. They also could not understand why recent senior executive public service increases had recently been granted and could not be reversed. There were also suggestions to cancel the proposed $1.5 billion ANZ Stadium build and $1.5 billion Powerhouse Museum project, the move out to Parramatta. Dominic Perrottet, according to Cabinet sources, said that the difference between this battle and the Greyhounds battle is that this was a fight they had to have. The Greyhounds battle was a fight they took on that they didn't have to. I understand the Powerhouse project may be cancelled now, and there is consideration of all sorts of other austerity measures, but the regulation to introduce this wages freeze, well, we heard reports earlier, it will be knocked off in the upper house. Robert Borsak, the Shooters MP, has said he won't support it. He's told me that he supports a wage freeze for those on 150k or more, not those on less. Mark Latham, the One Nation MP, former federal Labor leader, also agrees that frontline workers should be exempt. Berejiklian's view, why she went blanket, well, she thought, where do you draw the line? What is frontline? Fireys, Ambos, docks workers. But she has risked making herself the villain here by effectively cutting nurses and police's salaries when she could have exempted some frontline and the public would have welcomed this. She says they need the cuts to spend money on creating jobs, not just about the budget position, according to the Premier. They are looking to hire Service New South Wales workers, for example, but it's not a zero-sum game. Cops or nurses on 80k who get a 2.5% wage rise, spend that money and help the economy. Berejiklian's argument is Anastasia Palaszczuk has announced a similar wage freeze policy, but Palaszczuk's budget is in a lot worse shape. Tim Pallas in Victoria hasn't instituted a freeze, but he has cut the increases that were coming that seemed a lot more substantial than other states, such as Victoria. Berejiklian could have looked at asset sales for this $3 to $4 billion she wants, like her predecessor Mike Baird. She is going to sell the rest of WestConnex motorway, I understand. The federal government has instituted a 6-month public service wage freeze to get through the crisis. 6 months, not a year. Actually, it's been said to me this morning that should the upper house knock it back, Kieran, this will be viewed as a starting point for negotiations. It will then go to the Industrial Relations Commission. So ultimately, she's said everyone should cop the freeze. Won't be getting that, but they will be getting less than 2.5%. Let's listen to the New South Wales Premier this morning.
This is what we think is the best way forward, and how people respond to that is a matter for them. And it's important for us to stake our position, to say why we're doing it, to acknowledge that other states have done exactly the same thing, and to explain why it's important for us to be able to pursue this. It is just for 12 months. And if you look at the whole picture, if you look at the context, if you look at where we've come from and where we're going, we know it's a difficult ask. We know it's difficult for a lot of people to accept, but we also know it's the best decision at this point in time.
Gladys Berejiklian has picked a fight she couldn't win, Kieran, in terms of the upper house, and we know you should try and avoid that in politics.